Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're back with our last or very last episode of Netflix's Kingdom. I'm both excited and somewhat saddened that we're now at the end of this amazing series, right? The last episode, quite a bit actually happened. We were finally introduced to the man, the myth, the legend, Hye-Jun, right? This war veteran that everyone seems to want to ally themselves with because the people hold him in such reverence, and we saw that. I believe our heroes finally arrived at Sung-Kyu, where he resides, and just walking through the city, people would just immediately stop and bow because they have such respect for him and what he supposedly accomplished. Now, we haven't gotten any flashbacks or glimpses or anything of that sort of the war itself, but we know that in the last Great War, he was an integral part of that war ending as abruptly as it did. Right? And there's of course some history between him and the prince. He didn't raise him, at least I don't believe so, but he knew him for much of his earlier years, right? And he warned him as a child that people will attempt to usurp power for themselves, and they will try to control him. And somehow, I mean, I'm still a bit hazy on as to how that didn't happen, because it appears as though he left when the prince was still a child, and Cho Ju had all the time that he could want to actually, I mean, to manipulate the prince and um, make him into a puppet. But somehow that didn't happen. So I'm not sure who exactly influenced the prince over those years to maintain his individuality as um, um, over the years. It could be his guard, or it could be and he had other persons watching over him, or he himself may have come here and there to protect the prince, right? But of course, the prince isn't the only one who has some history with An Hyun. Lord Cho Hak-ju seems to have history with him as well, and seems to be very knowledgeable about what happened in the last war. And I don't recall if they actually mentioned how long ago the last war was, but he did mention to the physician who came to revive the emperor, the king. He did say to him, "Do what you did 3 years ago." So if the war itself was 3 years ago, it's we can. My theory would be that this plague or the undead flower and the zombies had a lot to play in the last war. The public just doesn't seem to know about it. Maybe they used the undead to end the war itself, right? Of course, the public they're not on the field, and it's feudal era, so it's not current time where footage and photos and stuff like that maybe spread around. People only knew what they were told for the most part, especially in a monarchy. Um, so it may be that they raised or created their own army of undead, unleashed it on their foes, and that's how they ended up ending the war. Um, so I mean, we saw Cho Haju performing some experiments um, on some prisoners, attempting. Well, he did say in one scene that um, he was testing to see how the virus spreads, but then he realized that, or he said that um, this can't be controlled. So it may be a situation where An Hyun was the one who initiated it 3 years ago, but Cho Ha-ju was there, he was present for it, right? And he knew what exactly happened. And back to An Hyun, well, yeah, back to An Hyun. So An Hyun may have been the one who initiated it 3 years ago, but Ha-ju didn't know as much as he now knows. But An Hyun himself is under suspicion by some of our heroes, right? The female physician, of course, Sylvie, um, she was surprised that An Hyun's men who came to rescue them didn't seem taken aback. They weren't scared, and they just jumped in and started attacking. They knew how to kill them, more importantly, right? So they weren't surprised to see men who were dead crawling out of graves. They weren't scared. They knew what exactly to do, and she expressed that to the king's guard, Mu Young, And Woo-young tried to, he tried to, to get the prince to see reason that there's something going on behind the scenes. I don't believe that he wasn't listening. He, I don't know, he feels, it appears as though he feels as though he somewhat owes An-hyun for being alive now, and um, for what he did for him as a child, and maybe he does. But it's clear that An-hyun has kept something hidden from him, but he just can't see that right now. So he just dismisses the concerns that the guard raised, right, about why, aside from the men not being shocked at all about what happened, but also um, An-hyun himself not taking any action up to this point, knowing that the prince was in danger um, when the Cho clan were attempting to assert power for themselves. He has known what has been happening all this time. People being executed in the capital, at the palace, and bodies being found, and people going missing. But he's not lifted a finger until this point. And that goes back to what Hye-Jun said. He did say that An-hyun would not go against him under any circumstances. Right? We just don't know why. Now, aside from that, we got some backstory for our army veteran, was it? Yeah. And I finally learned his name, Young Sin. And it was so difficult to find his name. For some odd reason, it's not listed, at least not easily. It's not on IMDb for that matter. The actor is not there, the character is not there. So, not quite sure why. I had to do quite a bit of digging just to find out who he was. But yes, Young Sin. We got a bit of backstory for him, and we learned that he's originally from Sung-Kyu. Woo-young still doesn't trust him, of course, reasonably, understandably so, because he's kept his past a secret. But we saw that he's from a small village in Sung-Kyu, and when he was leaving, the village was from a poor village. People were dying. We saw him with a boy. I'm not sure if it was his son or brother, or what their relation was, but he told him that he'd come back. But what he came back to find now seems to be an abandoned village, and he visited a gravesite. As to whether or not they died of natural causes or something else, we don't know yet. So there's still a bit of mystery surrounding him. But we are beginning to learn more, and the fact that he is from Sung-Kyu is a bit suspicious, right? So it begs to wonder whether or not perhaps An-hyun sent him to guard over the prince, or keep to watch over the prince, because he was pretty anxious to accompany the prince back to Sung-Kyu along the way, where everyone else at all the villagers pretty much left. But he may feel some responsibility for spreading the virus, so that could be it. And maybe he will be the one guy who's not shady enough to have some ulterior motive. But for the moment, there's still a cloud of suspicion over him, right? And the next big thing to happen, of course, the queen herself. She declared herself queen regent, and with that, her first decree was to seal off all the major cities surrounding Sung-Kyu. And of course, this is under the guise that there's this horrible disease that's spreading throughout the cities. And I'm assuming Cho Hye-Kyu means to use this as a means to, one, take care of the virus, because while he's still after the prince, this is something that he will have to manage, or while he will get to the palace eventually. But he's going to use this as a means to use fear to keep the people under control, right? And within all this chaos, who really cares about the prince and who's leading? So they pretty much just accept whoever they're told is the head of state now, right? And so she's now queen regent. They said that the king is ill. They left out the important bits, though, that the king is really an undead, a mindless corpse. But so they're pushing the story that the king is ill, and in his absence, the queen is now going to be ruling the land, which of course we know means her father would be ruling. We saw them with a number of pregnant women eating food, which I initially thought was some infected stuff, but then I don't know. I think it's something else. But one of the women appears to be Mu-Young's wife, Mu-Young's pregnant wife. But they appear to be gathering a lot of all these pregnant women for some reason. And I believe it has something to do with the queen. I suspect perhaps if her child isn't a boy, right? Because her father said you must have a son, you will bear a son, right? I suspect she has him around in the event that her child is a girl, and she would swap the babies with someone's boy, and claim him as the king on the throne. So it's I suspect because they showed Mu-Young's wife that she will be the one that will be selected. They would have no other reason to highlight the fact that she was his wife, right? And I'm sort of happy because I'm hoping this means that Mu-Young will be around a lot more, because he's my favorite character so far. I want him to survive for the next season at the very least. Alright, so a lot of things happened last episode. I'm very excited to see how the finale will actually end. Yeah, I'm concerned that someone is going to die. I know this isn't Walking Dead, and well, the important bits of Walking Dead. I'm sure I know this isn't Walking Dead, so maybe we won't have that finale where someone important dies. But I suspect we'll lose someone. I'm just not sure of who. Alright, so I think we're definitely going to be losing someone. Alright, so final episode 6 of Kingdom. Very excited. Let's get into it.
아버님이 말씀하신 대로 모든 건물을 공수했습니다. 허나, 진정 포기하자는 말씀입니까?
너에게 권력이라는 것이
아버님을 잘 지켜드리겠습니다.
네 손에 그 권력을 쥐어준 사람은 나다.
Here's a point. Or you
그 자리에서 끌어내릴 관문을 열지 말거라.
세자는요?
Is that easy? I don't know. It seems they may just have to tell the people the truth, although maybe they won't believe them. I don't think he's gonna hand him over, but.
나오시오.
Didn't think he would betray him.
이곳 상준,
Still can't say I trust
제
him. though.
고향이며 제 거처입니다. 오늘 밤만이라도
결혼식 게 아닙니까? 그게 무슨 말씀이십니까?
He told them.
어제 내금장이 천서구를 통해 보낸 밀치입니다.
양산, 경주, 대구, 합천, 창녕 남쪽 땅 여기저기서 역병을 피해 올라
저들을 들여야만 합니다.
경상 땅이 모두 당했다면 비난민들은 점점 더 들이닥칠 텐데 그 많은 자들을 어디서 채울 것이며 무엇을 먹일 것입니까? 식량이 떨어지면 약탈이 시작될 거고 읍성하는 난리가 날 겁니다.
I don't know if this is the right decision because I feel they need people on their side. I don't think exiling every magistrate they come across is gonna
피난민들과
accomplish
순박한
that.
국민들을 대피시키기엔
구하려면 상주목 전체를 지켜야만 한다.
이제 곧 역병 환자들이
Yes, they need
밀어닥치고
to push back the
어찌 상주목을 지켜야 합니까?
the infected.
역병 환자들은 낮에는 쉬신이 되었다가
Let's be mindful of daylight. Exactly. Oh, the woman giving birth. Why do you think they would just pick you guys off the street and feed you and everything for free after spending years not giving a damn about you?
그만 가자. 진정말 배웁니다.
근데 마마님, 참말로 제가 중전마마에 시중을 드나요? 어째서 항아님들이 안 하시고 저 같은 청꽃이...
마십시오.
Well, that explains why she needs the pregnant mothers, you know? She's not pregnant. But her father doesn't appear to know someone else. If she didn't before get pregnant with someone else and just have the baby. I guess time is kind of against them now, so this is the easiest way to do it.
어떠냐? 이 정도면 충분하지 않으냐?
She wants the baby to pose as her own. But that again raises suspicion around Hye-Jun being
무엇이라도 겁이 없는지
he had access to the flower itself.
그게 네 매력이긴 하다. 서비야.
Resurrection plant here. Some things here. But it's daytime.
중요한 건 총구와 총열 그리고 방아쇠를 당기는 팔이 최대한 일자가 되게 만드는 겁니다.
총을 잘 다루는구나.
착호군 출신이라고 합니다. 말씀드린 수많...
They're really wise, relying on guns in the nighttime.
도착했습니다.
Calm down, calm down. It's a horse. It's kind of careless, isn't it? They don't wait until it's light out. To be though, and what was running around in the day. Unless this virus can evolve to the point where they become animated in the daytime. But how though?
어찌 낮에
Yeah.
햇빛이 아니었어.
And then the habitat being so water steppers apparently. But how did she figure that out? So there we have it, season 1, episode 6, the final episode of Kingdom, and wow, just wow, right? We certainly didn't have a whole lot in terms of action for this episode, but at the same time, so much did happen, right? The end here certainly raised a ton of questions that it raised a lot of questions that I'm hoping, makes me want to see season 2 even more, so we can explore the lore of these undead that are presented here. But we finally got to see the prince. He got some downtime, well deserved. Over the past few episodes, he's been chased, almost killed, had to face undead, and he's just been through a lot. He's been through a whole lot. Right, and finally he was able to find safety and protection from the Cho clan at An-Hyun's village. But of course that was short-lived. The palace guards eventually showed up, having known that he would have been arriving here. I do recall we did know that he knew, because when they attacked the clinic and the prince and his colleagues, his friends, his allies left, the palace guard did say he already knew where he was headed. I assume that they had intercepted. I'm almost certain that they had intercepted a message. The prince had sent word prior to him leaving the village that sent word to An-Hyun that he would be arriving, and the guard that arrived at Cho-Hak-Ju said he intercepted a message. I could be remembering this wrongly, but I'm almost certain, 9% certain that's what happened. He intercepted a message that they were heading to An-Hyun, right? So I don't believe there is a traitor. There very well still could be, but I doubt it very much. Of course, An-Hyun seems very much suspicious of Young-sin, and understandably, because of the mystery of where he is from, the militia that he was a part of, and how he came to join the group in itself. So it is a possibility, and looking back at how this all began, it could very well be that Cho-Hak-Ju, that this virus spreading wasn't an accident. Now, Cho-Hak-Ju did in fact perhaps place Young-sin at the clinic, and that was his mission, right? He knew that the infected body was going to be arriving there, and his mission was to ensure that the virus spreads, and he could accomplish that by doing what he did and ensuring everyone ate a part of the body and get the virus started. So this entire thing, and my mind would be blown if that is in fact what happened, because I didn't see it until now. I still want to believe that it's not him, if only because I think they need as many allies as they can get their hands on, and I'm more suspicious of An-Hyun than I am of Young-sin. But if that is what started this all, and the series of events that led to here was in fact Cho-Hak-Ju sending Young-sin there to start the epidemic, so that he could in all this chaos he could usurp power for himself, and it appears to be going quite brilliantly. If it does go that route, then I'm surprised, I'm blown away. I would hope that it's not the case, and that he is an ally, but An-Hyun, and that is my theory. I choose to go that side. I believe there is something up with An-Hyun, and I could be wrong. It may very well be that he's just he is in fact an ally of the prince, but he can't get over what Cho-Hak-Ju said, in that An-Hyun would never turn against him. So that still has a lot of question marks around it, right? And why did he say that? And of course, An-Hyun himself knowing far more about this than he's led on. Adding to that, a lot of experimentation where COB is now it is in Sung-Kyu. So it would appear as though the resurrection plant originated from there and not where she was initially. I forgot the name of that city. So the resurrection plant wasn't from there, and it's actually from Sang-Kyu. It means that's where the physician got the plant from, because she did go looking for it initially, and she couldn't find it because she thought the mountains near the clinic was the frozen valley, and I could have sworn that's what they refer to it as, unless there is more than one frozen valley, or it's an extension of the valley itself, and it just stretches to Sang-Kyu, right? But if that is the case, then my suspicions are correct, and Hye-Jun is a part of this whole mess. And where the mountains where Subi is, obviously there were some experimentations going on, looking at the condition of the chains and the tables and stuff that they saw there. Someone was experimenting with these creatures, right? And quite a few of them seem to already be there. They don't appear to be attacking COB, which suggests that water is still something that they're not able to cross. But of course, they will not reanimate in daytime is not the window, right? I'm still a bit confused about that. I mean, COB here at the end says it's about the temperature and not the sun, right? But I don't imagine that the difference in the temperature from the palace to Sang-Kyu is that different, is that significant, right? Where they would be animated here in the day but not animated there in the day in the day. I'm still a bit hazy about what that means, but I'm sure they'll go more into that in the next season. I initially thought it was just a case where the virus is evolving, because from the very first episode, it took a lot longer for the transformation to take effect, right, from one infected person to the next. The boy that was the physician's aide that was infected initially, he wasn't even reanimated at all. He was infected and he stayed dead. He was obviously still, his body corpse was still infected, but he stayed dead, right? And then the other persons, of course, who fed on his body, it took a few minutes, maybe like an hour. We don't know how long it took, but it did take some time for the persons. Once they digested it, it took a while for them to change. And there's something to be said of them consuming the flesh rather than being bitten. That could result in that. But I think it had something to do with virus, or at least I think the physician mentioned that it had something to do with it. And of course, as time progressed, as each infection went on, we did see where it took a shorter and shorter time for them to transform, from the very first breakout to current time. No, the transformation is almost immediate, right? As for how they got to this point, I mean, we saw Cho Hak-ju was doing some experiments back at the palace in the prison, so perhaps he figured some way to just. Or maybe, well, either he figured some way of speeding it up and allowing them to be active in the day, or it's as they said, and it has something to do with the temperature and not the sun, and he just figured it out because he was doing experiments in probably night and day, and he realized that, okay, it's not the sun, it's the temperature. So maybe he just figured it out and not directly the reason for it, right? Because Hye-Jun himself, despite my saying he seems aware, he seems generally surprised that they are active in the day. But again, as I said, he definitely knows more than he's letting on. But for the moment, he seems to be in support of the young prince. For the moment, I'm still very much suspicious of him, and I do very much think that he is the one to look out for, that betrayal that's coming. It's coming from someone. Right, I believe the series is pointing us in Young Sin's direction, but I think that's a misdirect, and it will very likely be Hye-Jun. I do feel for Moo Young's wife, who is basically fodder for the queen right now. It appears as though, well, obviously, again, this is the big revelation of this episode. She's not pregnant. After all this, she's not pregnant. They just want power that badly that they're willing to do anything to get it, right? So she's not pregnant, and of course, Moo Young's wife and a number of other young women are there, pregnant young women are there to have the baby that she needs to rule, right? Although I'm still unsure as to why she needs to do that now. If she can declare herself Queen Regent, unless it's a temporary rule where I mean she can't keep relying on the king being ill, although we know he's not going to die, but I guess people will eventually ask questions if the king is alive for decades and yeah, no one sees him. So I guess she wants something more permanent, right? So she now has these women feeding them, clothing them, taking care of them, only to kill them if they don't bear a boy. The first that we saw, the first one to actually have a child there, it appears as though they killed her and the child. The nurse said that it was a girl, the baby was a girl, and I don't know. I mean, her expression suggested that she wasn't okay with what they're doing, but yet still they're still doing it. But I guess fear for her own life. That seems to be one of the recurring themes here. Everyone just following orders without question, respective of morality, right? But she, for the moment, the Queen is Queen Regent. Her declaration is law. Our team here managed to set up barricades around Sung-Kyu to protect everyone. Of course, that is now useless, because, well, not useless. The only issue now, it means that the playing field has now changed dramatically, because they're not safe in the day and they're not safe in the night, which puts his initial plan just thrown out the window. With the exception of water, they can still use that to their advantage. But the infection will spread a lot faster now, now that it's, the infected can be active during the daytime. So, wow. I have no idea. With this change now, as I said, it changes everything about what we've known in the series so far. So it's a bit difficult to even predict what comes next, because everything is just now flipped on its head. The one thing that they had as a barrier against these creatures was, okay, we're safe in the day, just don't go out there at night, we're safe in the day. And the series did a good job hammering that away for the entire 6 episodes. You're safe in the day, just not at night. Safe in the day, just not at night. And then they just pull that away from you. Nope, you're not safe in the day or at night. Alright, so it's an interesting direction. And as I mentioned before, it's I mean, from earlier on, it seems to be evolving how we know zombies behave, right? And as all things sci-fi mythological creatures do over time. So I don't mind it much. I mean, we typically know the difference between zombies, vampires, werewolves, etc. Where, for example, werewolves are active at nighttime during a full moon, but not in the day. So it's something akin to that, and vampires as well, not being able to go out in the daytime and active at night, right? And being afraid of the sun. Same thing applied here. So it appears they have borrowed some elements from other creatures to apply to ghouls and zombies here. The crossing the water thing is essentially the same thing, even though it's not prevalent in a lot of series, TV, media anymore, that weakness, right? I feel those things, like being weak to garlic and stuff like that. In older vampire films, you'll see that portrayed, but in the more recent ones, you don't see it anymore. Same thing for crossing water. The sunlight thing still at play, but the same thing applies for crossing water. Vampires were not able to cross any bodies of water, and that they seem to be drawing on here, which again is fine with me, because it's not something that's even that you even see applied in films anymore. So it's definitely an interesting take on the zombie genre itself, a unique direction that they're taking with it. I'm glad to see that after one season, and I mentioned this before, it's one of my issues with The Walking Dead. It started out with conflict. Right, the very first season started out with conflict. Yes, there were zombies, but there was still conflict. How do we survive this? Still, even with a zombie apocalypse, there's still human elements that have to be explored. Right, what happens when something like an epidemic like this comes about? Men will start to kill other men. Survival of the fittest and all of that. Right. So there was still some conflict going on there, and it wasn't just a zombie of the day for every episode. Some running with a zombie, and it's just about survival. Which in and of itself, I don't know. I think one of the issues with Walking Dead was that it was always one or the other. It doesn't do a very good job of keeping both going concurrently. And this is of course just the first season of Kingdom, so who knows? Maybe later on it will fall prey to the same mistakes that Walking Dead did. But so far, I don't believe they will, because that's just the conflict just seems to be so ingrained in the episodes themselves, in the characters themselves, right? So it's interesting to see how they've taken it and made it unique and different, separate from Walking Dead. This isn't anything like The Walking Dead, right? So of course, I mean, we have other zombies coming up with Game of Thrones coming up in only a matter of days, actually. Yeah, in only a matter of days, Game of Thrones will be coming back with the White Walkers. So it's the time of zombies. It's their time, right? We had the vampire run, had the werewolves run. Now it's time for zombies to get their shine, right? So very much interested to see where the next season will take it. My predictions would be the barricades that they have set up so far will still be effective to some extent, because whether it's day or night, I mean they've set up a lot of bamboos and blockades and stuff like that around the cities with a lot of water, and that should still work since water is still effective. It just means that it's going to be a lot more difficult for them to move about and to take in as many people as they thought they would before, because a lot of those people have now turned, right? Initially, the people in Sung-Kyu weren't infected, and Hye-Jun changed that, right? So it's more than just about revenge at this point, because he's sacrificing villagers. I can understand using those that are already turned, but turning the people himself to use them as weapons is just cruel. But the problem the prince now faces is that Hye-Jun is coming for him. Says he wants to claim with his own hands, so he's out there. He's going for the prince. So it's no longer an option to stay behind the safe walls. He is coming for you. Now I do suspect that Hye-Jun will die, right? Maybe not in season 2, and I think he will die in season 2. At least that's my prediction. I think he will die, and I think the queen herself, having taken a backseat to her father over this entire season, it's clear that she wants power for herself, just for different reasons that they discussed at the first the opening scene there. She reveres power for money and wealth and be comfortable. He wants it to rule, but not quite sure what his end game was, to be honest. But she wants power for herself, and she realizes at this point that her father is the only one who can take it from her, and he keeps reminding her of that. So I half expected she would have been the one to kill him, but given the current trajectory where he is now, I do think he's going to die in some battle somewhere in Sung-Kyu. I do suspect he will die there, and the next season will be the Queen Regent's rule, right? Because she still very much wants the prince dead, because he's still the only one who can challenge her authority. If she does, given that one of the young women that they got had a child, I suspect that she will have her prince very soon. right? Because most of the women seem to be close in terms of how far they were in their pregnancy. So it's almost time, and eventually one of them will give birth to a boy. So I do believe the next season we will see the Queen Regent. We will see her with her now. Once the son is born, she will have all the power that she needs, right? There is a possibility that they will maybe skip ahead in time, right? Because in terms of, I don't see how, I mean, having a baby, right? He's not going to be able to rule for a number of years, right? He could just be around, and she will just, as she has been doing, she will just issue her her commands and stuff, and she just needs him to be declared as a ruler, right? She doesn't strike me as the mother type to begin with, so it's not as though she's going to be with the child, right? She just needs him as a pawn to use. So, but at the same time, I do suspect they may skip ahead in time where we have an older, still young, a young prince, but older nonetheless, not a baby. But if they do that, then and maybe they can accomplish things with a flashback. I don't think they will do that, but it's a possibility that they will. Because there would just be too much that they would need to explain in flashbacks and stuff if they did that. So that's my prediction for the next season. We will see the Queen rule. I do think we will see Cho Hye-Jun died, and by whose hands I'm not quite certain. It could be either by the Queen's hand or by the Prince's, because he is blinded by revenge at the moment, so he could very well walk into a trap there, if Hye-Jun is actually on the Prince's side. But at the same time, I'm wondering what An-Hyun's, not An-Hyun, what Cho Hye-Jun's end game is. But we'll see next season, right? I could sit here and predict all day long, but I'm looking forward to see what they do with season 2. Here we have it, season 1, episode 6 of Kingdom, the final episode. I am certainly going to miss this this series, but the good thing about it, this being that Netflix usually releases all their episodes in one go, is that we have another binge-worthy season to look forward to. Perhaps later this year or early next year. I'm not sure when the series is due to return, but I don't imagine it would be too long. I do know season 2 already began. They already began shooting season 2 months ago, right? So I do suspect that towards the end of the year, we will see the next season. I would want to see it around Halloween, because that's just a perfect timing for this, right? But Netflix doesn't seem to, not all the time anyway, produce all their films based on genre. I think season 2 of Sabrina the Teenage Witch just dropped, and that I expected to be in Halloween, but it wasn't. So I'm hoping to see the next series, the next season very soon, so we can binge watch and go through that as well and explore this world some more and see what happens. So be sure to post down in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are of the finale, as well as what your predictions are for the new season. Alright, be sure to hit like or subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.